Until it hurts. Please work. Oh my gosh. That didn't happen. Okay. So like I said, we won't record this with all the mistakes taken out. Hello YouTube, this is Frugal and welcome back to part 2 of our ORBX TAPINI tour. Now, this one's going to be tricky. We're still at Whiskey Tango Papa, which is where I landed at the end of part 1. And we're going to be flying to Fane, or Foxtrot Alpha November. And I gotta admit, I thought about practicing this and recording this after countless practice sessions like I normally do, and showing you this is exactly where you need to go, blah 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 blah. But I decided, based on a few comments from people saying they wanted to see a more human Frugal, that I would not do that. I've flown to Fane once and I crashed. Okay, so this is the next attempt at flying to Fane. Did find out some interesting things in that previous flight though, where I flew there the one time and crashed, in that the Flight 1 GTN 650 I've been using does not have Fane in its database, so I actually had to learn how to make a user waypoint in that GPS, which is kind of cool. I'm not sure if it stores that user waypoint between sim sessions. By the way, the sim in question here is obviously prepared, because I find it easier to film with. No other reason than that. So I don't know whether it stores those user waypoints, whether I need to recreate it. We'll find out in a minute, but yeah, it's going to be challenging. Fane is in the middle of nowhere. It's literally on a mountain ridge. If you look up here and see this mountain up here, imagine a runway right about there. Well, actually right about there. It's not there, it's kind of the other way, but imagine a runway right about there following that slope right on the very ridge. If you get it wrong, you fall off either side, other than the obvious getting it wrong and crashing into a side of a mountain. It's a pretty crazy place to fly. It actually took me a while to even find the airport visually. It was nuts. But anywho, what's going on with my keys here? I have a button which is supposed to put me back into the pilot seat, but it didn't. I'm not sure what's up with that. Anyway, let's run through this. I do have checklists. Bear with me one moment while I grab them. And we'll work through things in the proper fashion. Somewhat. Checklists do tend to go out of the window for me quite rapidly, because it's not a real plane. I'll try my best. Okay, so checklist. Now I've got track IR turned on. Obviously right now it's disabled, but I'm going to be using track IR as well. So parking brake set. Done. All switches off. Now let's see these keys are working, but my hotkeys to jump me straight back where I want to be don't. So panel lights off. All these switches need to go off. Make sure all the avionics switches here are off, which they are. All switches off. Landing gear switch needs to be in the down position, which it is. Oh good, now it's raining. Excellent. I've no idea on the weather yet. I'm using real-time weather. It does sound pretty horrendous. We'll find out once I get things powered up. Battery switch on. And then we go and check the VMC over here. Make sure this works. Should have full tanks of fuel. We do. I'm tempted to get less fuel actually, because it's going to be tricky to do, but even so. Okay, fuel quantity is checked. Annunciator warning lights, we're going to test those. Press and hold this button here. Good. Trim tabs, set to 0. Well, yeah, that's pretty much 0. Those are all pretty much 0. And the altimeter, I'm not going to set that yet. I could press the magic B key. I'll wait and check the weather before I press the B key. So the canopy, before starting, canopy needs to be closed and locked. Harness and rudder panels adjusted. Well, my rudder panels are adjusted. I'm not going to strap myself into my office chair. Flight controls should have full and free movement. I do. I could pop outside and look there. Yep, everything looks lovely. And again, my hotkey's not working. I wonder why that is. Incidentally, this might be useful to some of you. I'm going to set my hotkeys up. I found that setting keys for hotkeys in EasyDock. By the way, here's another tip for you. Many people ask me, how do you get EasyDock working in Prepared? Go and download it. Simple as that. A friend of mine who's just started out with FSX just bought EasyDock and let me know that if you go to Flight 1's webpage, the store page for EasyDock, and download it from there, the version you download is the one that supports Prepared. There's no more hacking and tweaking and stuff. Just download it and install it. Anyway, here's EasyDock. Aha! You see I've got keyboard shortcuts here. what I found was these keyboard shortcuts often don't work, so I actually use a Razer Orb Weaver to change my views. And I've set the Razer Orb Weaver up to issue buttons, so that's a joystick button. I don't know why that wasn't working. Let's do that one. That's another joystick button. Let's do that one as another joystick button. There we go. So now, because I've assigned buttons instead of keys, it's actually, I've found, more reliable. Long-time viewers will know there was a video I did a while ago on the NGX where I kind of kept losing my hotkeys completely. I couldn't even change views with EasyDock. And I found that using an external device, even an Xbox 360 game controller, and assigning buttons on that controller to preset views actually works a heck of a lot better than assigning keyboard buttons. Anyway, canopy, harness, we've done all that. Flight controls, we've done all that. Circuit breakers are all in. Yes, they are. Fuel selector needs to be on both. The arrow needs to point up, which it is. Okay, so let's get ready to start this. So changing my view once again. Fuel boost pump on. Prop control, full forwards, which it is. Crack the throttle, mixture full rich. Starter switch. Let's move this over. So right, left, both. Fingers crossed. Start. And up it comes. Fuel boost off. I should have turned the nav lights on. That's not on the checklist. Blame the checklist. So that's all good. After start checklist, alternator switch now needs to go on. Make sure that the oil pressure and temperature is rising, which it has. It's actually stable already. Lights as required. Well, my nav lights are on. Engine readings are within limits. We're looking good. I should actually bring that back to about 1,000 on the RPM. Avionics master now can go on, which means I can turn on all these wonderful gubbins here, and the GPS is starting up, which is why I have a please wait cursor. But anyway, let's go through and turn all this stuff on. So that one, that one, that one, and that one. In fact, we'll put that on Alt right away. And we will pop open the GPS, because I really am curious as to whether the user waypoint that I created saves somewhere. I think it might. Message, yeah, it's licensed to me. Great. Okay, let's see. Let me see. How do I do this? Waypoint info. User waypoint. There it is! Fane! So, I don't need to recreate that, but I actually created a user waypoint that's got Fane in it right here. The only thing I couldn't do with it is set the elevation of that waypoint. Let me see if I can edit this. No, there's no way to set the elevation, unfortunately. It's not temporary. Great, so I've actually set a waypoint. Let me, maybe, for those of you curious, it's actually just click on waypoint here, create waypoint, and then I got the longitude and latitude out of Wikipedia. So that's how I figured out where the airport is. Just so you know. Anyway, with all that done then, we might as well set a direct to waypoint, select waypoint. Now I think I can search for it using the normal search. I think the normal search here includes user waypoints. It does, see? User waypoint Fane. Enter and activate. Direct to 261. And again, because this aircraft fully supports the Flight 1 GTN 650, I've already got all that set up down there, which is great. Okay, let's go ahead and tune to active sky and get the weather.
Alpha Yankee Papa Yankee airport information Delta 0100 Zulu weather wind 294 at 7 visibility 10 sky condition 5000 scattered ceiling 3000 broken temperature 31 dew point 23 QNH 1007 advise on initial contact. You have information Delta Alpha Yankee Papa Yankee airport information Delta 01.
Alright, let's make them shut up. There we go. So wind is only 7 knots this time, which is great. It is windy. There is some clouds up there, which we are going to run into. Try to stay away from them as much as possible. As before, I'm going to set up my GPS. Now I know that Fane is at 4,000 feet. Not my GPS, my autopilot. I know that Fane is at 4,000 feet, but even so, I also know there's a lot of mountains around here. So, as before, we'll set this on nav. We'll turn on the yaw damper. We'll set the altitude up to about 10,000. Altitude. That's a good word. I need to start using altitude more. And the vertical speed, we'll set that to 1,000. I noticed in the previous video when I edited it that I actually set to 900, not 1,000. But anyway, so that's good. We are going to need some flaps. I'm going to put 2 stages of flaps in again, just like before. So I would guess that we're warmed up. We've been sat here for a while, 1,1200 RPM, so I say we are warmed up. I'm not going to do the taxi checklist, we will do the engine run-up checklist. So parking brake set, which it is. Throttle, 1500. Over there. Check the prop. So I'm going to cycle the prop all the way back. Check the mags. Good. Not going to have a problem with mags, which is great. Engine readings are still within limits. Now we should lean. Now, beforehand, what I was doing, I was forgetting everything, actually. A2A taught me how to lean, and I wasn't doing it right. Here's how you can lean better. Look at the EGT. We're going to start pulling back the mixture here, and the EGT rises. You see that? Keep on gently pulling it back until the EGT drops, and when it does, back off a couple of notches. Like that. So there we go, we're leaned. That's about as far as I can go. 727, 728-ish, 730. If I keep rolling, you'll see it go down, you see? So there we go. That's how you lean the engine. Throttle setting now can go to idle. Trim, we need to set for takeoff. So I am going to do that right now. I'm just going to pull back the trim. I think we're going to need a lot of vertical trim. Elevator trim, sorry. And we are good to go. So, the runway is actually right next to us. We're going to turn track IR on now. So the runway is right next to us, so we can assume that we taxied to the runway and ready to go. Before takeoff checklist, autopilot, check that it's off. It is off. Propeller control needs to be full forward. Mixture needs to now be full rich. Canopy is secure, harness is tight, and then takeoff. Obviously we release the brakes, accelerate to takeoff speed. Max power, 29.7 inches, manifold pressure, 2700 RPM. And then throttle back to 24 to 27 inches for the climb, and RPM reduce as required. Alright, so let's try this. Brakes are off. Let's not forget what we did last time. Strobe lights and landing lights are on. Pitot heat can go on right now. Again, the friction bug in Prepared and FSX is persistent. A lot more power is necessary to get moving than I think I really should use in the real world. But what do I know? Come on. Tricky to see even where to go here. So we are taking off with a crosswind, based on what Active Sky told me. That's going to be a challenge as well. See, I'm already getting a power warning. Why? Engine warning, oil temp. I need more power. I'm going to ignore the warning. It's a sim, I can do that. Not incredibly realistic, but really, I don't know why I'm getting engine oil temperature warnings now. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Come on, give me speeds! We're in the white arc. We could fly at this point. I'm going to keep on going. There's a fence. Pull back until it hurts. Please work. Oh my gosh. That didn't happen. Okay. So like I said, we won't record this with all the mistakes taken out. We'll just do this again. I'm going to cut now, actually, to after the aircraft is all set up and ready to go. But I think, for the altitude that this airport is at, oh my god. For the altitude that this airport is at and the prevailing conditions, I really need to be thinking about lighter aircraft, so I'm going to go with less fuel. I'll see you in a minute after the cut. Alright, welcome back. I'll explain a little bit more about what led to my decision to not cut stuff like you just saw in a second. But what do I think went wrong? Well, we were too heavy, we were too high up. I don't think, as the checklist says, mixture full rich is a good idea from a runway this high up. So I am actually leaning the engine here to try to get it where it should be for this altitude, which I think is about there. So we are going to have the engine leaned for takeoff, which I'm not sure is the right thing to do, but it can't hurt, can it? Let's try that again. So brakes off. Let's see how we do this time. Problem with being so high up as well is I couldn't get the manifold pressure that I wanted. At all. See, I'm increasing power now. I've got the warnings up straight away. Is this perhaps a bug? I gotta give it power. I need more manifold pressure. Alright, we're in the white arc, so I'm gonna start rotating. Seems to be a better result. Lighter aircraft, rotate early. There you go. So we are trimmed already. I'm gonna bring the flaps up. I can't really trim anymore. I do have terrain warnings, as I would expect. I'm gonna bring the gear up, which we'll do now. Speed's coming up, so we'll bring the flaps up. Oh my gosh! Why is this aircraft kind of shaking? Let's take a look outside. We're good. The real air simulations aircraft can break. You can get flap flutter and all sorts of nastiness going on. I think I'm just very close to a stall, to be honest. Alright, we're climbing at 2,000 feet per minute, which is too much. I'm going to bring the nose down, pick up some speed. Reset that GPS display so it's more useful. I want to fly the aircraft first though. Gosh, it is actually quite windy. Once we're out of that rain. There, so let's pop open the GPS. I'm going to put this where I can see it. Zoom in, zoom in, zoom in. Alright, let's start climbing up, as I said, to about 10,000. And then we'll proceed on course. So the reason, the other reason, other than the comments, a couple of comments actually, over recent months about things like Frugal's Hangar was, as some of you saw on Twitter, I spent this weekend, I went on Sunday to my friend Paul's house. Paul being the MD-80 pilot who I did the MD-80 video with. And he has a full sim in his house, and we played with the sim. And honestly, we played with the sim. I was all ready to sit down and do things somewhat seriously and get schooled. And Paul pointed out, I have a tendency to take things a little bit too seriously. It's just a sim. It's just a sim. So with that in mind, I'm going to reduce my RPM a little bit here. I thought, you know, you could be right, Paul. So we'll change things up a little bit. You know what, I'm doing it all wrong. I'm reducing power and I shouldn't. We're going to reduce RPM. There we go. So in the vein of still trying to be somewhat realistic, but not taking myself too seriously, it is just a sim. I'm not a qualified pilot. So we'd leave stuff like that in. Gives you a giggle anyway. So I can't turn yet, there's no way. Then we can bring up a terrain display. Where is it? There it is. So we could turn left in a little bit. You know, once we reach this yellow peak here, we could turn left. We could turn right as well, actually. But for now, we'll stay as we are, climbing. Trim the aircraft again once we reach altitude. And after that horrible faux pas at the beginning of the video, I think we're all in good shape.
The next challenge, though, is can I find the actual destination airport? Tune into part 2 to find out.